The arrival. Commander Maya Chen stood alone on the observation deck of Nexus Station, Earth's furthest outpost in the solar system. The vast emptiness of space stretched before her, stars glittering like scattered diamonds against absolute darkness. After 15 years of service in the United Earth Space Force, she'd seen her share of the extraordinary, but nothing had prepared her for what was coming. The station's alert system blared to life, its harsh tone cutting through the silence. Maya's neural implant pinged with urgent data. An unidentified object had breached the outer detection grid, moving at impossible speeds. "Commander, you need to see this." Lieutenant Patel's voice crackled through the comm. The object just stopped, its holding position outside the Jupiter orbital line. Maya's pulse quickened. "I'm on my way to command." The corridors of Nexus Station buzzed with controlled panic as Maya strode toward the command center. The skeleton crew of 32 personnel, scientists, engineers, and security, had been handpicked for their ability to handle extreme situations. Today, that selection would be put to the ultimate test. The command center's main display showed a pulsating sphere of energy, iridescent and shifting, approximately 1 kilometer in diameter. It emitted no recognizable radiation signature, no heat, nothing that should allow it to exist in physical space. "What are we looking at?" Maya asked, her voice steady despite the ice forming in her stomach. Dr. Hiroshi, the station's lead xenophysicist, shook his head. "It defies all known laws of physics. The energy readings are, well, they're beyond our capability to measure." Before Maya could respond, every screen in the command center flickered and went dark. A moment later, they reactivated, but instead of system diagnostics and sensor data, each display showed the same image, a humanoid figure with skin that seemed composed of the same iridescent energy as the sphere. "I am Zorith," the figure spoke, its voice resonating not through speakers but directly in their minds. "Your species has drawn my attention. I have observed your kind for some time now, watching your struggles, your triumphs, your cruelties, and your compassions." Maya stepped forward. "I am Commander Maya Chen of the United Earth Space Force. What is your purpose here?" The figure's gaze seemed to penetrate her very soul. "Your species stands at a crossroads. You have reached beyond your world, but you carry with you the same violence and discord that has marked your history. I have come to determine if humanity deserves to continue its journey into the cosmos." A chill ran through the command center. This wasn't first contact. It was Judgment Day. "By what right do you judge us?" Maya challenged, ignoring the warning glances from her crew. "By the right of necessity," Zorith replied, unmoved. "Countless civilizations have risen and fallen. Some destroyed themselves. Others became destroyers of worlds. I represent a collective of elder species who have learned, through bitter experience, that prevention is preferable to allowing another predator species to spread unchecked across the stars." The implications were clear. Earth's survival hung in the balance. "So what now? You simply decide our fate without giving us a chance." Maya's voice was steel, masking the fear that clawed at her insides. Zoreth's form shimmered. "There is a trial. A series of challenges designed to test not just intelligence or strength, but the essence of what your species truly is. If you pass, humanity continues its journey. If you fail..." The unspoken threat lingered in the air. "I'll take your trial," Maya said without hesitation. Dr. Hiroshi grabbed her arm. "Commander, we can't just. One representative is sufficient," Zorith interrupted. "The commander has volunteered. The trial begins now." Before anyone could protest further, a portal of swirling energy materialized in the center of the command deck. It pulsed with the same rhythm as the sphere outside the station. "Enter." "Commander Chen," Zorith commanded, "face the trials and determine humanity's fate." Maya looked at her crew, seeing the fear and hope in their eyes. Earth had no weapons capable of threatening a being like Zorith. Diplomacy had never been this critical. "Establish communication with Earth Command," Maya ordered Lieutenant Patel. Tell them everything that's happened. If I don't return in 24 hours, initiate station evacuation protocol." She turned to face the portal, her resolve hardening. Humanity had overcome ice ages, plagues, world wars, and its own self-destructive tendencies. They had clawed their way to the stars through sheer determination. Whatever waited on the other side of that portal, Maya would face it with the same resilience that had defined her species. "I'm ready," she told Zorath, stepping toward the swirling gateway. "Few have ever been truly ready," Zorath replied, "but your courage is noted." Maya took a deep breath and stepped into the portal. The world dissolved around her in a kaleidoscope of light and sensation. When her vision cleared, she stood in a vast chamber that seemed to stretch infinitely in all directions. The walls, floor, and ceiling, if they could be called that, shifted and flowed like liquid metal, reflecting distorted images of herself. "Welcome to the Nexus," Zorath's voice echoed around her. The entity materialized several meters away, its form more substantial here, standing nearly 3 meters tall with features that seemed both male and female simultaneously. "This realm exists between dimensions, a reflection of thought and reality intertwined." Maya steadied herself, fighting the disorientation. "What exactly are these trials?" "3 challenges," Zorath explained. "The first tests your adaptability. The second, your compassion. The third is unique to each species." The floor beneath Maya's feet began to shift, forming a path ahead of her that led into darkness. "Your first trial awaits, Commander Chen. Remember, you represent not just yourself, but all of humanity." Maya nodded, squaring her shoulders. Whatever lay ahead, she would face it with everything she had. Earth depended on it. She began walking the path, alert to any danger. The darkness ahead gradually gave way to a landscape that seemed eerily familiar, a devastated cityscape, buildings crumbling, abandoned vehicles scattered across debris-strewn streets. It took Maya a moment to recognize it as San Francisco, the city where she'd been born. "Your first trial," Zorath's voice came from everywhere and nowhere, "is to survive." The ground shook violently. From the rubble emerged creatures unlike anything Maya had ever seen. Chimeric amalgamations of machine and flesh, their movements jerky yet purposeful as they converged on her position. Maya reached for her sidearm only to find it missing. Of course, this was a test of adaptability, not firepower. The nearest creature lunged, razor appendages slashing through the air where Maya had stood a moment before. She rolled, grabbing a piece of metal debris and swinging it hard, connecting with the thing's head. It staggered but didn't fall. More creatures emerged from the ruins, at least a dozen now, circling her with predatory precision. Maya backed toward a partially collapsed building, mind racing. Direct confrontation would be suicide. She needed to think differently. The creatures communicated with clicks and electronic whines, coordinating their attack. Maya noticed they avoided certain areas, places where the ground glowed with a faint blue luminescence, radiation, perhaps, or something unique to this reality. Taking a chance, Maya sprinted toward the nearest blue patch. The creatures hesitated, then pursued more cautiously. When she reached the luminescent area, they stopped at its edge, unwilling to follow. "Interesting," she murmured. The tactical possibilities were immediately apparent. She needed to connect these safe zones, create a path to. Where? What was her objective? In the distance, a tower stood intact amidst the devastation, its peak emitting the same blue glow. That had to be her destination. For hours, or what felt like hours in this place where time seemed fluid, Maya navigated the ruined city, using the safe zones to outmaneuver the creatures. When forced to fight, she used the environment to her advantage, collapsing unstable structures to crush pursuers or creating distractions to slip past larger groups. Her uniform was torn, her body bruised and bleeding from several close encounters, but Maya pressed on. The tower grew closer with each calculated risk, each moment of quick thinking. When she finally reached its base, the creatures had multiplied, hundreds now filling the streets behind her. The tower's entrance glowed invitingly, but a final horde of creatures blocked her path, larger, more menacing versions of those she'd encountered before. Maya surveyed the situation. Direct assault? Impossible. Stealth? The open ground offered no cover. Then she noticed something. The creatures' movements followed patterns, creating momentary gaps in their formation. Timing would be everything. Maya watched, counted, calculated, then sprinted forward during one such gap. Claws scraped her back as she dove through the tower's entrance, the blue energy field sealing behind her, keeping the howling creatures at bay. Inside, the tower was empty except for a pedestal at its center. Upon it sat a simple cube, glowing with the same blue energy. "You have completed the first trial." Zorath appeared beside her. "You demonstrated resourcefulness, strategic thinking, and the ability to adapt. These are qualities your species will need." Maya's breathing was ragged, her body aching. "What were those things?" "Manifestations," Zorath replied, "drawn from your species' collective fears. Every race faces reflections of their own nightmares in the first trial." Maya approached the pedestal. "And this? The key to your second trial. Take it." She reached for the cube. As her fingers closed around it, the tower, the devastated landscape, everything dissolved around her. Maya found herself standing in a new environment, a vast crystalline chamber filled with hovering containment cells. Within each cell was a being. Aliens of different forms and sizes, some humanoid, others utterly foreign in their biology. "What is this place?" Maya asked, the cube pulsing in her hand. "Your second trial begins," Zorath replied, fading from view. "Choose wisely, Commander. Humanity's fate depends on it." Maya was left alone among the imprisoned aliens, the cube growing warmer in her grip as the nature of her second challenge became terrifyingly clear. The Crucible. Maya stood frozen among the suspended containment cells, each one housing an alien being. The cube in her hand pulsed with increasing warmth, its blue glow casting eerie shadows across the crystalline chamber. Hundreds of eyes, some multifaceted, others singular, a few nothing like eyes at all, watched her with expressions ranging from hope to hostility. "The second trial tests your compassion," Zorath's disembodied voice echoed. "The cube contains enough energy to free one prisoner. Choose who deserves freedom." "Commander Chen." Maya's mind reeled. One choice among hundreds. What kind of test was this? She moved through the chamber, studying the captives. Some pressed against their barriers, gesturing frantically. Others sat in resignation or meditative silence. The diversity was staggering. Beings of gas and crystal, creatures with exoskeletons, entities composed of what appeared to be pure energy. "Who are they?" Maya asked. "Why are they imprisoned?" "Each failed a trial," Zorath replied. "Their species faced judgment, as humanity does now. These individuals were the representatives who could not overcome the challenges. They remain as testimony to their failure." The implications hit Maya like a physical blow. Each prisoner represented an entire civilization deemed unworthy of continuing, possibly extinct now, wiped out by Zorath's collective. The weight of it threatened to crush her. "This isn't a test of compassion," she said, her voice tight with anger. "It's a test of my willingness to play God. Call it what you will." Zorath's voice was impassive. "Choose one, or choose none. Both are valid choices with consequences." Maya approached one containment cell containing a vaguely humanoid figure with pearlescent skin and 4 arms. Its eyes, 3 of them, arranged in a triangle, regarded her with unmistakable intelligence. "Can they understand me?" she asked. "I will facilitate communication if you wish it," Zorath replied. Maya nodded. "Yes." The alien's thoughts suddenly flowed into her mind, not words exactly, but concepts and emotions translated into something she could comprehend. Freedom, hope, question, fear. Maya concentrated, trying to organize her own thoughts into a response. I can free one prisoner. Tell me why it should be you. The alien's response came as a flood of images, a world of crystalline spires and oceans glowing with bioluminescent life. Then that same world burning, continents cracking as energy weapons fired from orbit. The final image was of the alien standing before a being like Zoreth, refusing to bow. Pride, defiance, resistance. Maya moved to another cell. This one contained a being that seemed composed of interlocking geometric shapes, constantly rearranging themselves into new configurations. Freedom Logic Exchange Proposition came its thoughts when Maya established contact. What proposition? She asked. Knowledge, technology, weapons, revenge, it offered, showing her visions of devices capable of tearing holes in reality itself. Alliance against jailer. Maya stepped back, disturbed. She moved through the chamber, communicating with dozens of prisoners. Some offered technological wonders in exchange for freedom. Others promised alliance against Zoreth. A few simply begged, showing her memories of loved ones left behind. Hours passed as Maya cataloged their stories, their offers, their pleas. The cube grew hotter in her hand, reminding her that time wasn't infinite. She had to choose. In the farthest corner of the chamber, she found a cell unlike the others. While most prisons were clean and sterile, this one showed signs of deliberate damage, scorch marks on the exterior, the containment field flickering sporadically. Inside was a being with scaled skin in shades of deep crimson. It sat hunched, one arm ending in a stump, its body covered in what appeared to be ritual scarring. Unlike the others, it didn't look up when Maya approached. "Hello," she projected. The being flinched but didn't respond. Maya tried again. "I can free one prisoner. Would you like to speak with me?" Finally, it raised its head. Its eyes were clouded, possibly blind, but it turned toward her voice with precise accuracy. "No freedom deserved," came its response, the mental voice heavy with what Maya could only interpret as shame. "Why?" she asked. Instead of answering directly, it showed her memories. A civilization of beings like itself, technologically advanced, discovering space travel. Then came contact with a less advanced race, invasion, subjugation, exploitation of resources and people. When Zoreth's collective arrived to judge them, this being had been chosen as representative. It had failed the third trial, the test of mercy. "My name Kale," it projected. "My people extinct my failure." Maya felt her throat tighten. "You believe you deserve to fail." "Yes. We became monsters. I became monster." Kale showed her memories of atrocities committed, of his own participation in them, followed by his gradual realization of the horror of what they'd done. By the time he faced Zoreth's trial, he had already condemned himself. "How long have you been here?" Maya asked. "Time meaningless here. Long. Very long." Maya glanced at the damaged exterior of his cell. "Did you try to escape?" "No. Punishments self-inflicted." The images he shared showed him repeatedly harming himself, throwing himself against the barrier until it damaged his body. Maya felt sick. This wasn't just imprisonment, it was eternal self-torture. "What would you do if I freed you?" she asked. Kel seemed genuinely confused by the question. "Why free monster?" "Answer the question," Maya insisted. After a long pause, "Find way to end. Too much memory. Too much pain." He wanted to die. After eons of self-recrimination, he saw no other purpose for freedom than to end his existence. Maya stepped back, her decision crystallizing. She raised the cube, now almost too hot to hold. "I've made my choice," she called to Zoreth. The entity materialized before her. "And who have you chosen to free, Commander Chen?" "Him." Maya gestured toward Cal's cell. "The Crimson One." Zoreth's expression remained impassive. "An interesting choice. May I ask why?" "Others offered you technology, alliance, knowledge that could benefit your species." Maya met Zoreth's gaze steadily. "Because he's the only one who understands what he did wrong. The only one who shows genuine remorse. The others want freedom for themselves. He doesn't even think he deserves it. And you believe he deserves mercy despite the atrocities of his people, despite his own actions. I believe in redemption, Maya said firmly, and I refuse to judge an entire species by their worst actions or their worst moment. Something unreadable flickered across Zorath's features. Place the cube against his containment field. Maya approached Kel's cell. I'm freeing you, she projected. Why? Came his confused response. Because everyone deserves a second chance, she answered, pressing the now blindingly bright cube against the field. Energy surged from the cube into the barrier, which shimmered violently before dissolving. Kel remained motionless, as if unable to believe what was happening. The cube crumbled to ash in Maya's hand. The second trial is complete, Zorath announced. You have chosen to extend mercy to one deemed unworthy by his own admission. Whether this shows wisdom or foolishness remains to be seen. The chamber around them began to shift, the crystalline walls melting away like ice under a flame. The other prisoners vanished, leaving only Maya, Kel, and Zorath in a formless void. The final trial awaits, Zorath said. This one cannot be faced alone. Maya looked at Kel, who had finally risen to his feet, his blind eyes somehow finding her face. What happens now? He projected, uncertainty and the barest hint of something like hope coloring his thoughts. We face the third trial together, Maya answered, offering her hand. Kel hesitated, then reached out with his remaining hand, gripping her forearm in what must have been a gesture from his culture. Why trust monster? I don't see a monster, Maya replied. I see someone who's suffered enough. The void around them solidified into a new environment, a massive amphitheater carved from what appeared to be a single enormous piece of obsidian. At its center stood a dais with two pedestals, each bearing a crystalline device similar to the cube Maya had used, but larger and more complex. Your final trial, Zorath announced, tests the essence of your species. Approach the pedestals. Maya and Kel moved forward cautiously. As they reached the dais, images sprang to life above each pedestal, holographic displays showing scenes from Earth's history. Wars, environmental disasters, genocides, all humanity's darkest moments played out in merciless detail. Your species has inflicted tremendous suffering upon itself and its world, Zorath said. The Crimson One's people followed a similar path. They destroyed those weaker than themselves. They consumed without thought for consequence. In the end, they were deemed unworthy of existence. Maya watched the terrible parade of human history, her heart heavy, but her resolve unbroken. You're showing only part of the story. Am I? Zorath asked. Yes, Maya said firmly. Show the rest. Show the times we pulled back from the brink. Show the healing, the rebuilding, the moments of grace. As if responding to her demand, the images shifted, showing disaster relief efforts, peace accords, scientific breakthroughs that benefited millions, acts of individual heroism and collective compassion. Both aspects exist within your species, Zorath acknowledged. As they did within his, similar scenes began playing from Kel's world, moments of beauty and compassion interspersed with the atrocities. The question remains, which path will you ultimately follow? Zorath gestured to the devices on the pedestals. Before you are two choices. The left pedestal will return you both to Nexus Station. Your world will be spared judgment, for now. The right pedestal will grant you access to knowledge and technology beyond your current evolution, advancing your civilization by centuries in a single moment. Maya frowned. What's the catch? The knowledge comes with a price, Zorath replied. The energy required to transfer it must come from somewhere, specifically from the life force of one volunteer. Maya's blood ran cold. A sacrifice. Yes, one of you must die so that humanity may leap forward, or you may return empty-handed but alive, having proven yourselves worthy of continued existence, but no more. Kel's thoughts reached Maya. He offers same choice, my people. We chose knowledge. We sacrificed weaker species. Maya looked at him sharply. That wasn't one of your own people. No. Other race we conquered. Deemed expendable. Kel's mental voice was heavy with ancient shame. This true test, not technology, not knowledge. Test of what you value. Maya turned back to Zorath, understanding dawning. The real test isn't choosing between knowledge and safety. It's whether we'd sacrifice someone else for our gain. Zorath's expression remained unreadable. You must choose, Commander Chen, for your world. Maya stepped up to the right pedestal, studying the device that promised to catapult humanity centuries forward. With such knowledge, Earth could solve its energy crisis, cure diseases, perhaps even join Zorath's collective as equals rather than supplicants. All that would cost was one life. Kale moved to stand beside her. I volunteer, he projected. My life long enough. Give meaning to end. Maya felt his sincerity, his desperate desire for atonement. Accepting his sacrifice would be so easy to justify. He wanted it. His people were already gone, and humanity would gain so much. She placed her hand on the device, feeling it vibrate with potential. Kale placed his hand beside hers, ready for obliteration. Maya closed her eyes, the weight of Earth's future pressing down on her, and made her choice. The final judgment. Maya stood with her hand hovering over the knowledge device. Kale beside her, ready for self-sacrifice. The amphitheater's obsidian walls seemed to pulse with anticipation. In that moment, Earth's future condensed into a single choice. The practical, utilitarian decision was clear. Accept Cal's sacrifice, gain the knowledge, advance humanity by centuries. He was willing. His people were already gone. The math was simple, but something deeper than calculation stirred within Maya. She withdrew her hand from the right pedestal. No, she said firmly, turning to face Zorath. This isn't a valid choice. We don't advance at the cost of another sentient being's life, even a willing one. Why? Kel's confused thoughts reached her. I offer freely. No reason live. Maya faced him. That's where you're wrong. Your past doesn't dictate your future. Your remorse proves you've changed. You deserve a chance to build something new from the ruins of what was lost. She turned back to Zorath. Is this how your collective judges species? By whether they'll consume others for advancement? Because if so, you're not guardians. You're just another predator with more power. For the first time, Zorath's impassive mask cracked slightly. Something like surprise flickered across the entity's features. You reject the knowledge? Zorath asked, even knowing what it could mean for your world's future. I reject the method, Maya clarified. Knowledge gained through sacrifice isn't progress. It's just another form of predation dressed up as advancement. My people have made that mistake before. We're trying to be better. She squared her shoulders. If the price of your approval is becoming what we're struggling not to be, then your judgment has no value to us. Silence filled the amphitheater. Zorath's form seemed to grow more substantial, more physically present than before. In 14,627 trials, Zorath finally said, only 16 representatives have made the choice you just did. Of those, only 3 did so for the reasons you articulate. The amphitheater began to dissolve around them, the obsidian walls melting away to reveal a space unlike anything Maya had ever seen, a vast chamber that seemed to exist both everywhere and nowhere simultaneously, filled with beings similar to Zorath, but distinct in subtle ways. The collective, Zorath explained, gesturing to the assembled entities, the oldest surviving species in this galaxy, united by a common purpose. Which is? Maya asked, still positioned protectively near Kale. Survival. One of the other entities spoke, its voice resonating directly in Maya's mind. Of life itself, in all its diversity. We were once like you, another added. Young, ambitious, expanding. We encountered other species, and in our ignorance, destroyed several before we understood the value of diversity. Zoreth stepped forward. The trials are not merely tests of worth, Commander Chen. They are lessons, experiences designed to accelerate understanding that might otherwise take thousands of years and countless tragedies to acquire. Maya's mind raced to process this revelation. So the real purpose wasn't judgment at all. It was education. Both, Zoreth corrected. Some species cannot overcome their predatory nature. They consume and destroy until nothing remains. Those we prevent from spreading beyond their homeworlds. And the prisoners? Maya asked. The ones who failed your tests. Preserved, a third entity answered. Their knowledge, their genetic material, their consciousness patterns, all preserved should their species be lost. Like a cosmic arc, Maya murmured. Yes, Zoreth confirmed, though Kale is somewhat unique. His species was not extinguished by us, but by their own actions after failing the trial. Their aggression turned inward once they could no longer direct it outward. Maya turned to Kale, seeing him with new understanding. You're the last of your kind. Yes, he confirmed, his mental voice heavy with ancient grief. Last memory bearer. Last witness. What happens now? Maya asked Zoreth. Did humanity pass your test? You passed my test, Zoreth clarified. But one individual is not a species. The true question is whether what you demonstrated represents humanity's potential path or merely an aberration. The entity gestured, and a swirling portal appeared. Through it, Maya could see the command center of Nexus Station, her crew frozen in what appeared to be suspended animation. Return to your people, Commander Chen. Tell them what you have experienced. The collective will be watching humanity's development with great interest. Maya hesitated, looking at Kel. And him. His fate is now linked with yours, Zoreth said. Another test, perhaps. How humanity treats one who was once an oppressor may tell us more than how you treat your own kind. Kel straightened, his blind eyes somehow finding Maya's face with perfect accuracy. I accept judgment. We'll go with you. We'll learn new way. Maya nodded, then faced Zoreth once more. Before we go, I need to know, how many species have you deemed unworthy? How many civilizations have you confined to their homeworlds or worse? Fewer than those who destroyed themselves, Zoreth replied. And far fewer than would have been destroyed by unchecked predator species spreading through the cosmos. And you never questioned the right to make that decision. Every day for millions of years, one of the other entities answered. It is a burden we carry with the utmost gravity. The cosmos is vast, but not infinite, Zoreth added. Resources are limited. Habitable worlds, precious. Species that cannot coexist eventually leave no place for life at all. Maya understood the cold mathematics of it, even as she questioned the ethics. But standing at the precipice of humanity's future, she recognized that some decisions transcended simple right and wrong. We'll prove ourselves worthy, she said, not as a plea but as a promise. Not by your standards, but by our own best ideals. Something like approval flickered across Zoreth's features. That, Commander Chen, is precisely what we hope to see. Maya took Cal's arm, guiding him toward the portal. As they approached, she felt his anxiety spike. Fear, he admitted. Your people hate me. Different look. Different mind. They might, Maya acknowledged. But that's our test to face, not just yours. We'll face it together. They stepped through the portal. Light engulfed them, and Maya felt herself being unmade and remade, body and consciousness fragmenting before reassembling. When her vision cleared, she stood in the command center of Nexus Station, Kale beside her crew staring in shock at both of them. Time had resumed. To them, she had disappeared into Zoreth's portal only moments ago. Commander, Lieutenant Patel stepped forward, hand hovering near his sidearm as he eyed Kale. What? Who is this? Maya took a deep breath. How did one explain everything that had happened? The trials, the revelations, the cosmic perspective she'd gained. How did she convey that humanity now stood on a precipice, observed by beings with the power to determine their fate? "This is Cal," she said simply. "He's a refugee, and we have a lot of work to do." Lieutenant Patil looked confused. "Work?" "Yes," Maya nodded, meeting each crew member's eyes in turn. "We've been given a chance to prove what humanity can become, not just to Zoreth and the collective, but to ourselves." She activated the station's communication array, opened a direct channel to Earth Command, Priority Alpha. As the system established the connection, Maya placed a steadying hand on Cal's shoulder. Whatever came next, she knew with absolute certainty that the true test was just beginning. Zoreth's trials had been merely a prelude to the real challenge. Could humanity evolve beyond its predatory instincts? Could they build a civilization that valued life in all its forms, that advanced through cooperation rather than consumption? The communication screen flickered to life, showing the surprised face of Admiral Hernandez at Earth Command. "Commander Chen," he began, "we've been monitoring the situation. That object is still." He stopped abruptly, noticing Kale. "Who or what is that with you?" Maya squared her shoulders. "Admiral, I need to brief you on first contact with 2 extraterrestrial species and the future of human civilization. It's going to be a long conversation." Behind her, on the main viewing screen, Zoreth's sphere began to pulse with a different rhythm. It was no longer a threat but a reminder. They were being watched, evaluated not by their words but by their actions. As Maya began her explanation, she felt Cal's mind touch hers. "Thank you," he projected, "for new chance. We'll help your people. We'll share mistakes, prevent repetition." Maya nodded slightly. "That's how we'll prove ourselves worthy, by learning from each other's mistakes instead of repeating them." On the screen, Admiral Hernandez's expression shifted.